about running backs? I love the 6K range so much this week. It is so good.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I'm trying to look above that. Above that, I guess Breece Hall would probably be the guy for me at 74.
Breece Hall, also Jonathan Taylor. I know he was disappointing in his first game, but if I were to tell you that, okay, you're paying up, but also Malik Willis is on the other side, so you could just see a ton of run volume. And that Jonathan Taylor played 43 of 45 snaps last week, 96% of snaps. Trey Sermon was the only other back to see the field, 2 snaps for Trey Sermon. If Jonathan Taylor is, not just a bell cow, Ben, not just a 3-down back, but literally an every down, like every snap back, that's to me like the ceiling game potential when you're playing every snap of a game and you're going up against a team that doesn't have a functioning quarterback. There's a lot to like there for me.
There is no doubt. There's a lot to not like. It's an interesting situation. Like I don't
Richardson.
Richardson obviously can take some of that. He also had no targets, which I have a feeling is partly indicative of Richardson's in trouble. Oh, let's dump it off to the running back. No, I'll just run because I can. That's tough. Now, touchdown equity's through the roof here. No doubt about it. If you told me who's the most likely person to score on this slate, Derrick Henry, Taylor, like he's up there. So I get it, but I'm with you. The 6K range from Pacheco, Henry, Gibbs, Connor, even Jacobs, you'd assume he'll be crazy busy. Stevenson quietly had a really good game against Cincy. He had 25 carries and 3. Whew, that's a lot of volume.
I'm glad you mentioned Josh Jacobs because on the other side of this game, I totally agree. There's something there. Josh Jacobs is probably going to see, and I don't even care if Marshawn Lloyd is back. My guess is that he's not involved heavily anyway. Jacobs saw 19 total looks, 18 touches. It wasn't the most efficient game. He was fine. He was fine. He was fine. He had that 32-yard run, which kind of helped. But on both sides of this game, the snap counts are pretty significant. So yeah, Josh Jacobs at 6,500. You mentioned Pacheco, true every down back right now in Kansas City. And I'm not buying into that Cincinnati defense right now either.
No, Pacheco's a player. I'm just a big fan of him as a player.
He runs hard on every single play too. He's just
even Kyron's in the middle of this as well. And with Puka hurt, going to be even busier. So there's a lot that you can do here. I could go on and on. The list goes on and on. You're not going to find many bad options in the 6K range this week. I'll have lineups with 2 or even 3 of them.
It is really loaded. It is. You mentioned Kyron, 91% of snaps last week. Kyron got all, and that's a tough matchup. It's a really tough matchup. The Lions have one of the best defensive lines, one of the best run defenses in football. And now it's Arizona. Like, this is a far better matchup for Kyron Williams. Just how much better is this matchup than last week than Sunday?
Yeah, totally. And that's the beauty of week 2. Like you're most people are just, like this is who the guy is, full stop. It's just like not, there's a lot of nuance into 1 week.
What about Derrick Henry? Game script went against him last game. And we know that, he's not going to be involved as a pass catcher, but there's also legit 3 touchdown upside in a spot like this for Henry. That's what I keep coming back to.
There definitely is. I honestly think that Derrick Henry might be a better bet him to score multiple touchdowns.
Totally agree.
Because
totally agree.
You're just not getting much else. And he could score 2 touchdowns. And with the opportunity cost, he could be solid, but not slate breaking.
You're 100% right. And you put it like this, right? If this were a different slate, Derrick Henry might look a lot better. But we just mentioned, Isaiah Pacheco is playing 80+% of snaps, is the primary pass catching back as well. Kyron Williams, 90+ snaps last game, primary pass catching back. I mean, you could even make that argument for James Conner at 6,400, right? He's going to play 70+% of snaps. We saw him involved on basically every play in that first drive. There's a few guys in this range that are just going to be Josh Jacobs involved on pretty much every play or out there on every play. As much as I like the Henry upside from a touchdown perspective, there's the overall volume in both phases of the offense favors Pacheco, favors Kyron, favors Josh Jacobs, favors Connor. Kenneth Walker, if he's healthy, should still, in a good spot, but I don't know if he's even going to play. All of those guys, probably excluding Kenneth Walker, but those other four guys, I think, look better than Derrick Henry this week.
I agree. And for that reason, again, I think there's just different ways to structure some of that exposure. So for me, favorite running back, I'm actually going to go with Kyron.
If we get decent odds on this, and always shop around books for touchdown props, because they can be like that Mike Evans 2 touchdown one that I grabbed at 10-1, moved to 10-1, was plus 600 on Caesars.
Yeah, what a
difference. Yeah, what a difference. If we get good number there, we'll reconvene on Sunday and talk about it. Obviously try and bet it earlier when they come out. But Derrick Henry 2+ touchdowns could be a really good spot this week.
Absolutely. Again, I'm very on board with that type of structure for a guy like Derrick Henry.
Who's your top tier?
I'm gonna go with Kyron Williams. The matchup.
No, that's got to be mid tier.
Okay, I get one above him.
Yeah, the 7K break. Yeah,
I'll go Breece Hall.
Okay,
I just think that Breece Hall, obviously, he's got home run ability when he touches the ball. He had 6 targets, 16 carries. Unlike Richard, like you want to talk about Jonathan Taylor and Richardson, Rodgers is the most opposite of that. He's getting the ball out immediately. There's no chance he's running. Breece Hall is going to be busy. And against Tennessee, who I don't really know, I thought they looked pretty good in some areas. The Jets, they're going to have to lean on Wilson and Hall for these wins. Like, I wouldn't be stunned to see 25 touches for him this week.
I agree with everything you just said. It's Breece Hall for me as well. We talked more about Taylor than Breece Hall, but the biggest difference is no rushing upside in Aaron Rodgers. You're 100% right. I love Breece. Look, I told you yesterday when we were actually on a call together. It was like 7 o'clock. I was like, I'm betting the under on Braylon Allen right now on rushing yards. And he had 1 rush for 8 yards in garbage time, which is actually great because if he didn't see the field, I assume they would have avoided that. So,
definitely. That was like Mike Williams yesterday. Not to go back. Mike Williams, I knew he was on a pitch count, but man, not even.
Yeah.
I was even active.
Crazy. But my point in saying that is not to victory lap a straight bet on a player prop, is to say that I went into it with expectations that Breece Hall was going to get all of the work. And had that game been competitive, he would have gotten absolutely everything. Everything. The only reason he didn't was because late in the game, it didn't actually matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I am with you.
Yeah. Real quick. Let's see. Breece Hall. Breece Hall played 42 snaps. Aaron Rodgers played 38, which means Breece Hall was out there for a little bit. I had a hockey game last night at 9:40, so I missed some of this game. Someone who watched it may be able to tell me. It sounds like Breece Hall was probably out there for every snap.
Basic. I watched the game not that intently, but Breece Hall, I know Lazard fell in the end zone twice, but there were 2 players for the Jets last night. You had Wilson on the outside and you had Breece Hall doing everything. And I don't see how that changes. It's not anything the Niners did. That's just who the Jets are.
Yep. I love Kyron, but we got to mix it up since we both had the same one up top. I'll go Pacheco here. I think that's a great spot.
And honestly, this is why I kind of like Breece Hall. Chat, sorry you're not running on the Titans defense. I don't even disagree with that. I don't think Breece Hall needs to run particularly well on the Titans defense. He needs to just get in space, and he can absolutely do that. Like, I'm not playing him for 4 yards a carry, and he's just going to slowly churn them down. Give me 8 to 10 chances with him on the edge, and he's going to break a 60-yard run, or a swing pass, and I'll live with that. If he doesn't, I lose. I can live with that.
I agree. And look, I have a lot of respect for that Tennessee defense as well. But I think it's easy also to ignore the fact that yes, the Jets defense did not look very good yesterday. They went up against a juggernaut, right? And Kyle Shanahan played the old 4D chess by essentially ruling McCaffrey out long before this game ever started and not announcing it until an hour and a half prior. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, you saw that with the Jordan Mason comments, who
Yep.
that whole thing was, I felt bad for him. That's not his fault at all.
That he said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you
They're
want
going to
him to
get
do?
fined for that.
I don't know if he's going to get fined more. That it's pretty clear that the team was not thrilled that he said that. And you could tell in his second press conference that he had gotten quite a talking to.
Yeah. Yeah. A verbal lashing. Uh, so what I was saying though is that with Tennessee, it's tough to run on them, but this could be a spot where their offense just cannot orchestrate anything. And Breece Hall, like 25 touches is not out of like, okay, how about here's a fun one, Ben, and then we'll move on to this lower tier. There's nothing there. Here's a fun one, and then talk wide receivers. If I asked you to set an over under on Breece Hall opportunities, so rushing attempts plus targets, where are you putting it? It's above 20 for me.
23.5.
That's a huge number.
But it is. But are you just saying jam the under on that if that was a line?
No, I'm saying I don't care if the matchup is tough if we expect 25 or so opportunities.
I do.
I wouldn't jam the under on that. No.
Neither would I.
I'm saying it's a big number from a DFS standpoint. Yeah. The bottom tier sucks. I'd love to hear where you're going because I have I only have two guys sub 6K that are interesting to me. Maybe you can turn my head on a few of these, but it's going to be, and maybe you'll throw Jerome Ford out there, something like that. I just have such little confidence in this Cleveland offense right now. Zach Charbonnet, obviously, if Walker's out, I don't want to guess between Robinson and Eckler. They split snaps, even though Robinson had more carries. That's gross. The whole Elliott situation with Rico Dowdle is disgusting. Just timeshares left and right. Zamir White against Baltimore. Zach Moss got most of the work last week. And they stunk. Tough matchup. Najee Harris against Denver and J.K. Dobbins against Carolina are the two spots I'm looking at. I still expect a timeshare with the Chargers, but I don't know after seeing how explosive J.K. Dobbins was on Sunday, how you don't want to give this guy on a run-first offense more opportunities against the Panthers.
I agree, but everybody is going to do that, and there's going to be.
You think he'll be chalky?
Just because, look at the names.
Chuba, it's bad.
Had 6 carries. People liked him last week. He did nothing. Javonte Williams had 8 carries. People kind of, I saw some talk about him. He did absolutely nothing. Dobbins averaged 13.5 yards per carry. And I'm a big Dobbins guy. I like him. You have a dream matchup. I worry a little bit about it, but there's not much else down here. I think Singletary is in play. He had 10 carries and 5 targets. There are multiple ways to dice up Washington, and that could be a way. And then the one thing, I don't regret this, but we talked about this on Sunday. Tony Pollard can thrive in that offense even with Spears. He can. And I should have played him. I was going to, and then I didn't. Ultimately, it really wouldn't have mattered because running backs was pretty deep, but Tony Pollard's still in play.
The split with Tony Pollard and Spears suggested everything we heard in camp and through preseason is nonsense. Yeah, Tony Pollard is the number one there right now, hands down. So I hear you. I think Najee has to be in play too, though.
God.
Sometimes the gross plays are viable. Denver's offense is just straight dink and dunk. Bo Nix averaged 3 yards per attempt against Seattle. Tough spot. But do you think the Steelers defense is any easier than Seattle for Bo Nix?
For Bo Nix?
Yeah, I'm saying, do you think this matchup against the Steelers is any easier than Seattle was last week?
No, I mean, but Denver's just a corpse. I have no. Right. I like Bo Nix too. I'm just not messing around with anything Denver related.
Well, I'm more making the argument that Najee Harris volume in this game could be massive if the offense is actually on the field or getting the ball back frequently. He had 20 carries last game. I know Jalen Warren was dealing with that hamstring injury, so maybe that's why he was limited, and it was like 20-1 split between those guys. But I don't think 1 week is going to make a difference to where now next week it's a 50-50 timeshare at all.
I agree with that. I want to see what's going on with Fields. I worry a little bit.
Why? I don't know why it matters with Najee, honestly.
Fields, it's like 15 carries going.
And Najee still had 20.
Yeah, but there's such ineffective touches. I want dump offs. I want a handful of targets.
How crazy is that though, that Najee had 20 and Fields had 14?
I mean, the Steelers they destroy the game as a whole. Like they just crater the entire game.
What if it's Russell Wilson?
That would help. I would have more interest in Najee then.
All right. Who are you going at the bottom?
Tony Pollard.
It is Pollard for you?
Yeah, just by default. We'll see what opens up. We will totally see what opens up. Obviously, and we don't need to spend time on this, if McCaffrey's out, Jordan Mason will be very popular at 5,200.
I'm going to go J.K. Dobbins.
Okay. That makes sense.
We don't have ownership yet. So
it's very early. It's first look.
give me Dobbins for now.